If this was the last one, if this was the very last page,
let's go, let's go.
If this was my last record, I would open with the truth that everything I ever built began inside a broken youth. The boy who had no father but refused to be defined, who turned every empty silence into something left behind. I talk about the Tuesday that the label finally called, how I stood outside that building trying not to break and fall. If this is the last page, then let that chapter be the quote.
Last page,
But the story never really ends.
last page.
Every bar I wrote was for my friends. I wrote it for the ones who never got to see me here. Last page, last bar, last breath, but never ruled by fear. Never fear, never fear. If this was my last record, I would talk about the cost. Every friendship that went quiet, every version of me lost. The man I was at 20 and the man I am today are strangers who share memories of the same forgotten way. I talk about the nights I almost put the pen away, when the music felt like burden and the words refused to stay. But something always pulled me back before I hit the floor. A voice that said keep writing, boy, there's always something more.
Last page,
But the story never really ends.
last page.
Every bar I wrote was for my friends. I wrote it for the ones who never got to see me here. Last page, last bar, last breath, but never ruled by fear. Never fear, never fear. I never wrote for platinum, I never wrote for praise. I wrote because the silence was too heavy some days. And if one person felt it, and the pen was worth the work. If this was my last record, I would end it with a prayer for every broken listener who found something in there. The single mom at midnight who played one song on repeat. The teenager who almost quit and found the reason in the beat. Legacy is not the Grammy sitting cold inside my hall. It's the stranger who once told me that my music broke their fall. Just a boy who wrote through everything and never once backed down.
Last page,
But the story never really ends.
last page.
Every bar I wrote was for my friends. I wrote it for the ones who never got to see me here. Last page, last bar, last breath, but never ruled by fear. Never fear, never fear. The pen goes down, but the words stay for everyone who needed them. Always. Dreamville.